Morning. Today is the 18th of May. It's a Sunday morning, and I usually come out here and take a walk about every Sunday morning, kind of look around, see how things are going, and see what I can see before we go to church. But I don't usually make a video, so thought I'd make a little video this morning and talking to some family and friends lately, mom and dad, my aunt and my cousin yesterday. And I know a lot of people that watch these videos probably don't know beekeeping or are new to beekeeping. And, we talk about stuff and we don't go over the basics as much. We just go into, the process of doing what we do as if everybody knows what we're doing. So I wanted to talk a little bit this morning about the queen raising process. We've been raising a lot of queens. We got three different types of hives. We got the tall hives that's built, it's production, shorter hives that's built up, and then back down there on the trailer, we've got queen raising nukes. And we've been grafting queens to put into those. But the process, we go right into grafting and we don't talk about how we got there. But what we do is we come out here to your yard. This is a home yard. So what I'll do is take the best colonies that I have, and those are the ones we graft from. All of our queens and bees come from swarm traps, wild feral, wild caught bees. So I don't, people say, well, what kind are you have, Caucasian or Italian? Well, I don't really know other than just look at the color. I don't really know what kind of bees they are because they're all wild caught. They're survivor bees or bees that's been able to survive at least a year on their own without any help from me or another beekeeper, as far as I know, to make it. So we catch them all from there, and then we split those hives and make more queens. But the origination, where they originally came from, is out of swarm traps or swarms that we've caught out in the wild. But we pick our best hives. There's two things I look for when I'm picking queen bees. One is that they're gentle. I don't want to get stung any more than I have to. So I make sure that they're gentle and that they're produce honey. There's some hives that'll be really gentle hives or vice versa, but they won't produce any honey. So I'm looking for producers that are gentle, and that's pretty much the only two that I select for. So most of the ones for this year were ones that have got a good start on production, and that's the ones we breed for those genetics, or we pick for those genetics. So when we pick a hive, that's our grafting hive. That's a hive that we look to get our new genetics from. The queen lays an egg. She'll lay about 1,500 eggs a day, and those eggs will hatch in about 3 days. And that's what you want when you're grafting. We're looking for a day-old larva. So it's a really small larva, and it's usually right next to an egg, no more than we do. We don't, a lot of queen breeders will confine their queens to a particular frame and then wait 4 days and then graft those larvae, and they know they're 1 day old larvae. We just pick a frame out of a hive that we want that genetics, and we'll graft a larva next to an egg, because the queen lays in a concentric circle, and that's the age that we need those larvae to be when we graft them. But we'll pick them out with a little spoon. It's called a Chinese grafting tool, and we put them in a cell, in a queen cell, and we'll put anywhere between 10 or 15 to up to 40, and then we'll get a hive ready and put those grafted larvae into a hive that no longer has a queen in it. They're hopeless, what we call hopelessly queenless, and so they are in desperate need for a queen. So when they get those queen larvae, they have no other choice. We leave them no other choice to make a queen except what we give them. So when we give them those, they are desperate to make queens out of them. We also overcrowd them with an abundance of nurse bees, and the nurse bees are the ones that take care of the new larvae, or that feed the new queens that we put in there. So between those two instincts that the bees have, they are desperate for those queens and want to have an incentive to feed those bees as good as possible and make the best queens possible for us. So once we get that done and we get our queen cells, we have a cell. We know on what day it's going to emerge or hatch, and we sometimes we'll put them in an incubator and just keep them warm. After they're capped, the bees have no other responsibilities with them than to just keep them warm. So we can keep them warm in an incubator, and we'll do that. And then once they're ready to emerge, we'll put them in a hive that needs a queen. And in our queen mating nukes, that's where a lot of those goes. If we don't need them for our buildup hives or the short boxes out here, we'll put them in those queen mating boxes, and that's where the queen will emerge, and she has to go out and get mated. She has to take a mating flight, probably more than one, and she'll mate with about 15 drones in the area. She'll fly outside the range of these bees, so she's not mating with any of her offspring. She's mating with bees from wild other swarms that are in trees or another beekeeper's hive, but she'll go outside the range that these bees will be in, and she will mate with about 15 drones, somewhere around 15 drones. Those drones, when they mate with her, only the strongest drones are able to keep up and fly as fast as the queen does and be able to mate with her. So when he mates, he catches her, and he's able to mate with her, which is all a drone does. They are not any benefit to the colony at all. They eat honey and look for queens to mate with. But once he is successful and mates with the queen in midair, his genitals explode and he falls off backwards dead to the ground, and the next drone comes along. But once the drones, she comes back from that being mated, she has what is called a spermatheca, and it is filled with that semen, and that semen lasts for her lifetime, which could be up to 5 years, but is more apt to be more like 3. And she comes back to the hive. She'll come back to these the specific nuke or the specific box or hive that she flew out of, and she'll be mated for a lifetime. So she's mated for the rest of her life, and she'll in a few days, she'll start laying eggs in that hive. When she first starts laying, she'll lay sometimes multiple eggs per cell. Some people think a laying worker is what happens when a queen doesn't, or a hive doesn't have a queen for a while. And you can always tell because there's multiple eggs per cell. But when she's new and just starting laying and trying to figure things out, you'll see that, and some people think it's a laying worker when it's not. It's just a new queen. But after she gets lined out, it's 1 egg per cell, and you can tell her quality. One of the ways we tell her quality is by her laying pattern that she fills every cell. So it's 1 egg per cell, and if we had a good strong brood pattern, we know we've got a good queen in our hive. And once she starts laying, then we're free to use that in our production hive if we need it, in our build-up hive if we need it. We can turn one of these nukes. A nuke is just a small hive. They're usually 5 frames, these are, and those up there are 10 frames. So those are a regular Langstroth hive, and these are nukes, specifically mating nukes, because we're using them to get our queens mated. And then we can, like I say, we can use them or we can sell them or whatever we're going to do. So that's how we get to where we want to go with our queens. We get our own genetics. I'm not sure if I said it already, but our local genetics are a lot better. What we can raise ourselves, even if we can raise, one or two or three queens, is usually a better quality than anything we can buy. If I do have to buy a queen, I'm going to buy local and buy from somebody as close to me as I can get. So that's what we try to do, attempt to do, and that's what we're doing here with these mating nukes. And we've been able to sell some, we've used some, but it improves your operation to get your own genetics that you like, instead of not knowing or using somebody else's genetics. Another thing that queen bees and hives will do is they survive based on your management techniques. So how I manage my apiary and manage my bees is the bees, I won't say adapt to that, but the whole yard, the whole apiary gets adjusted, because ones that can't take the way you manage them will die out, and the ones that thrive in the way that you do things will survive. So you end up creating a unique genetic pool in your own apiary that's suited to the way that you manage hives. And over the years, that gets better and better and better. As the hives down here that produce, they'll hopefully produce next year. The build-up hives that I have down there will be production hives for next year. And next year I'll be doing this process again. So whereas I chose the best hive to graft from, the best genetics that I've got, those genetics will be better next year, and I'll choose the best ones again next year. So it keeps getting better and better, and to your specific management style and your specific region and temperatures and rainfall amounts and everything that we have here. It becomes quite custom to this area and your management style. So down here we've got our nukes. A lot of these, I don't know if you can read the top of those, but a lot of these have already been sowed, and I've got cells, new queen cells in this hive. They need two different types of food to be able to survive and to make good queens. One is a carbohydrate source, which is either honey is a carbohydrate source, but so is sugar water, which is on top in the jar. And inside the hive there is a pollen patty, which is a protein source. So they need protein and carbohydrates to raise good queens and to survive and make a good hive. So that's what we got in that hive. We've got some cells in there. That nuke was made from 3 nukes that were here, and I took the best brood frames and put in there. I've got a lot of bees in there, but there's not a lot of nurse bees. So our acceptance rate on our first graft for this hive is not great. But as those nurse bees, the first job a bee does when it emerges from its cell is to be a nurse bee and feed young larvae, or in this case, the queen larva that we've put in there. We have eliminated any other source for them to make a queen, so we call them hopelessly queenless, and they have no ability other than the larvae that I give them to make queens from. So they're overcrowded, which inspires them to hurry up and get going, and they have no other source for a queen, so they're very motivated to feed those queen cells, which makes a better queen. So once they get to 6 days old, they cap them, and then at about 10 days, we just keep them warm from 6 days to 10 days after we grafted, going from the grafting date. We keep them warm, and in about 10 days, we'll put those cells in a hive and let them emerge in the hive. I find that the acceptance rate is better if you let the cell emerge in the hive. Some people will let the cell emerge in an incubator in a cage all to our own, and then we'll try to introduce a virgin to a hive, and the acceptance rate is not as high, so I always use a cell, or always try to. There's never, hardly ever an always in beekeeping. It's usually, if that makes sense. So usually I'll introduce a cell and not a virgin. These hives, I sold a queen yesterday, and I had the two best choices I had. I was only needing one queen, thank goodness, but this one had a queen, a really nice queen in it, a lot of bees, big fat queen, good pattern. And I went to mark her. I took her out and went to mark her, and in trying to be gentle with her, she escaped my grasp and flew away. So she should come back to that hive. I looked yesterday afternoon, didn't see her, but I'll look again today. But she could went into another one that was sitting here. So we'll see if we can find her and see where she went. I know her because she would have been the only one that's marked. If she went into the hive next door, I'll be able to see her because she was marked, and the rest of them, while they should be back and should be laying, are not marked yet. So I think we've got a customer coming this afternoon. He's checking, he got some hives from somebody else, and he believes them both to be queenless, and he's either going to get one or two, but he was supposed to check them yesterday. He's supposed to be here today. Hopefully he lets me know in plenty of time where I can have them ready. When I take a hive out, I usually go ahead and mark her because it's just too easy to mark her. You got to grab her anyway. And we put her in what we call an introduction cage. And we usually put 3 or 4, maybe 5 workers in there with her, because they basically will give their life to feed her. So we look for bees that's engorging on honey and put those bees in the hive, and the first ones to die in that introduction cage will be those attendants, is what they're called. And they'll give everything they've got to her, and so they'll die. If they start dying, then you need to hurry up and do something. She can only stay out, for a couple days probably, and but she needs to be back in a hive as soon as possible. But if your attendants start dying, then she'll be the last one to die, but you need to go ahead and get her in a hive. But it makes it convenient. We put a queen cage candy that I make up in the introduction cage, and that goes, when they put that in their hive that needs a queen, it takes about 3 days for them to eat through that queen cage candy, and that is time enough for them to get used to her smell and her scent. And if you just introduced her without anything, just put her in a hive, they just kill her. But in 3 days, the time it takes for them to eat that candy, they'll be used to her by then, and it's a delayed release agent, I guess is what you could call it. But it delays the release for about 3 days, and then she's accepted and can go out into the hive, and she's already made it, so she can go ahead and start laying and get the customer a good quick start on getting a mated queen back into their hive that needs one. A lot of hives will go without. If they go without a queen for very long, they'll have a laying worker. The workers will start to lay and try to lay, but they're can only lay drones, and that hive is doomed, and they will not accept another queen when they have a laying worker. It's very difficult to get them to accept, and usually what I'll do is, if that happens, they'll get split up between other hives. Usually I'm several different hives, but it's hard to reverse that once it happens. So anyway, hopefully that tells you a little bit about our queen operation. Maybe a little details that you didn't know about, maybe some you didn't want to know about, but that's kind of the way we do things. And out here on a nice Sunday morning, the sun is just coming over the trees, just getting ready to. But maybe it gives you a little bit of detail about how we do our queen rearing, we call it, or queen raising. So I appreciate you watching. God bless y'all, and I'll see you on the next video.